Welcome you guys to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited. Today I have a special guest and we're going to talk about something really juicy that is a little bit controversial and like not enough people are talking about. So we'll get into that in a second. But first I'd love to introduce Iris Moon. She's my priestess sister and one of my good friends. And you can also find her on Instagram. Her handle is the multidimensional mother. She does a lot of really cool things in the realm of the sacred temple. And we're going to have a juicy conversation. So Iris, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Is this the time that I introduce myself?
Yeah.
Oh, this is so hard. That's why my handle is multidimensional mother. I feel like I have to say that I am a daughter of Hathor and Melchizedek. Those are like my parents in my lineage. And oh my goodness, I am a Reiki master. I work with the quantum realms and I read the stars. That's basically my focus, and birth work. I just casually slipped that in there. That's all my.
Yeah. Yeah. So Iris and I have been talking about this specific subject for a while, and I've asked her like a trillion questions about it. And so what we're going to talk about today is the difference between the tropical zodiac, aka Western astrology, and sidereal astrology, which Iris calls cosmic astrology. And that might be what it's actually called. I've only heard you say it, so I'm not really sure. But we're going to talk about specifically why Western astrology is sort of an illusion and just some things for us to be aware of when we're looking at our birth chart, when we're understanding our own astrology. So let's see, where do we start? So I'm going to start with where I learned this, and then I'll ask you some questions, Iris. So a couple years ago, I was in a course about Hathor, and the teacher was telling us, Kara Gilligan, she also has a great course about Hathor, just by the way. She was talking to us about how about 2000 years ago, I think it was around 150 AD, astrology was banned. And so at the time, I forget the person who introduced this, but someone had introduced the tropical zodiac, understanding that it was only going to be able really to be used for 72 years. Like the stars would be in that particular, I don't know, order in 72 years. But the tropical zodiac essentially doesn't take into account the rotation of the Earth's axis. So today, like what we see on Instagram or what we see in pop culture is, using Western astrology. But if you actually looked at where the stars are, that's not where the stars even are. And if you're like, we've all heard about, the stories of like the Buddha or stories of divine kings in the Eastern tradition having their astrology read, but they weren't using Western astrology. They were using sidereal astrology, which really tells you so much more about where the stars, where the stars actually are, but it's reading more of like your soul's truth. Whereas Western astrology, what I've learned is that it's sort of depicting like who you are in the Western world. So it's been really fascinating for me to look at both charts and see how they differ. And then like seeing friends and stuff, how their charts differ. And some of them are like wildly different.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's your intro, Iris, to just say whatever you want to say about this.
Oh my goodness. Um, it's really it's really something else. I mean, because I started out in evolutionary tropical astrology. Um, I I don't know, I think I was like 15 or something when I discovered that like the day of your birth actually meant something. And so, of course, like any normal 15-year-old with Google, right? Like I started Googling, my birthday is May 24th. So I started Googling, May 24th and just like discovering that, being born on a certain day creates certain energies. And then I realized that, oh, actually the year and the time is also important. And so I began like a deep dive learning astrology when I was like 15, 16, 17. And when I was 18, I started looking at other people's charts. And I started just like casually reading people's charts. Um, and I, dove in. I dove like head first. And my first teacher, I never paid for her. I mean, like I studied all of her free content, was Deborah Silverman, whom I still love. I think her light is just, I love her.
Mhm.
Um, so in this work, I really started diving in, and somewhere somewhere in all of this, I discovered that there was more to what was here. And I received the message in 2020, so I was like, I don't know, I can't even tell how old I am today. I was like, what, 25 maybe? Yeah, I think that's how old I was. So 10 years later, I was basically told that I had to move my practice to what's called Sidereal Astrology. I call it cosmic astrology, constellation astrology, whatever. It's all like the same to me. Um, and I resisted it so heavy because I spent so many years like channeling and studying from the stars. I mean, I dream about planets. Like I will have a dream and the planets come to me and they tell me all this stuff, and then I wake up and I know things. So this is how I receive a lot of my information, and it feels like really revealing to say that out loud. But I
Dude,
will have like,
super cool.
thank you. I'll have like Saturn come in and be like, "This is all you need to know about Saturn and water signs." And I'm like, "What?" So, um, I created my business on the basis of tropical astrology, tropical evolutionary astrology. And I was receiving downloads, insights, creating videos all the time. And then all of a sudden, Spirit hit me with a truck and was like, "You have to use sidereal astrology." I was like, "I know nothing." And I resisted it so long until I went into union with my partner, who also told me that he was receiving the call to move to sidereal astrology. Oh my God. And it's when you move from tropical astrology to sidereal astrology, there's a lot of unpacking to do. Because tropical astrology to me is a paradigm that we're living in that has been created for us to stay within. And I personally feel that it is an illusion. That doesn't mean that it's not real or potent or powerful for people, but that it's not the truth. And I have dedicated my life to living in truth, so I can't live under the tropical astrology paradigm,
Mhm.
which, like I said, requires so much unpacking and personal decolonization mind work. And so I just started diving deep into alchemical astrologers and just how I even had received my own information was like exactly how our ancients received their information from the stars. They would look up, they would download, and they would write, basically. They would begin to learn this stuff. So, oh man, I went on a deep dive into just the differences between sidereal and tropical, and I discovered that in all of this, right, it's kind of tied to the Gregorian calendar. And uh, the Gregorian calendar totally pisses me off, which I'll just say as another reveal.
And just like before you keep going with that, if anyone's watching this, you don't know what that is, that's just the calendar that we use today.
Mhm.
Continue.
Yeah, so, the Gregorian calendar was instituted or created based on Easter. I don't know if people know that, but it's quite interesting when you learn about the history because the church was more or less irritated that Easter was falling before the equinox. So the church, created a calendar to calculate Easter after the full moon and the spring equinox, which we were like taught that the church is not witchy, but it totally is. So basically, the church created this calendar to reflect their dates that they wanted, and it took a couple hundred years to get everyone on the same page, but they eventually got it to happen. Um, so this corresponds with the age of Aries, right? Because Aries is what we consider the spring equinox. But what the Gregorian calendar and tropical astrology refuse to relate to is the drifting of the cosmos and the nonlinear time of time itself. So, after these 2,000 years of the age of Aries, we now have found that the sidereal and the tropical paradigm are stretched far away from each other, um, anywhere from 23 to 26 degrees. Even like calculating a sidereal chart can still be sort of a system. I actually use a sky map to look at all the stars, which can be really frustrating sometimes because there's no like set anything when it comes to the constellations. So, anyway, um, sidereal astrology in its own right has been around for at least 10,000 years. And oh my goodness, now we live with this thing that was initiated 2,000 years ago, but is still like not a full system. I kind of realized that in 2019 when I was in Peru, and I was thinking about like how the northern hemisphere, relates Aries season as the start of spring, but Aries season in the southern hemisphere is fall. So I
Mhm.
was like, well, like, how does this work? This makes no sense. And then, of course, I got hit with the box truck of spirit saying I had to switch my system, which then made sense to me. So
Yeah, so I want to touch on the part where you were saying there's so many gems in what you just offered. Thank you. I think something really interesting for us to sit with is what you're talking about with this being sort of an illusion. The tropical zodiac being sort of an illusion of like, if you think about it I mean, I feel like, from a young age, you hear about the zodiac. Like I have always known I was a Sagittarius. Like I don't remember when I figured that out. But for some people, when you look at both different charts, your sun sign will be different. And so it's interesting if your whole life you associate with, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, if you associate with one sun sign that's actually not really what your real sun sign is. And then you're like, oh no, but I'm this way. And we start to identify ourselves by some of the characteristics that maybe aren't like, are we identifying ourselves in a way that's actually true to who we're being?
yeah.
And you said this to me, Iris, a while ago when I was like asking you 1,000 questions. You were like, well, there's always gems and there's always truth that we can find in anything. There's always meaning we can find in anything. But for me, it's just been so fascinating to see how my charts differ. And for me, I'm a Sagittarius in both, but my rising sign and my moon sign are very different. And so going back to the point of, the tropical zodiac perhaps being like something that's a system place for us that has the intention of kind of getting us off track a little bit, or it's like, yeah, we're connecting with all of the earth, with the sky realms, and we're in touch with nature and we're like using these ancient technologies, but it's like you were saying, 23 to 26 degrees off. I don't know if that's accurate in how I just said it, but so thinking about it that way, and another way to put this, I saw somewhere someone was saying like millionaires use tropical zodiac or the tropical astrology, and billionaires use cosmic astrology.
That's true.
And so that's like a way to put that into context of how much more powerful we be if we were working with the true system of nature versus something that might be a little bit distorted or altered. And it's
Yeah.
sort of like, and this even ties in with what you're saying with the Gregorian calendar. I feel like this year on New Year's, like way more people than ever before were like, it doesn't feel like New Year's. It doesn't feel like a new beginning. It feels like it's forced. I want to be like hibernating or
Yeah.
I want to be moving slowly. And it's like, that's just another example of something that's a little bit distorted because the New Year technically would be more in April timing. And so that's just another example of like some distortion that might mess with our natural flows of energy or our
Yeah,
natural alignment.
I agree. All of that. It's it's all so interesting because, even where we are had their own cultures around like New Year's and when they really began stuff, and that all was based on the sun and the moon. But now we like have so little actual connection with the sun and the moon and where they really are, and we have almost like forgotten that technology.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that like astrology is accessible to everyone, but when it's like not true astrology or teaching people how to look up, then it feels incomplete to me. And yeah, I totally stand by the fact that you can make meaning out of anything. Anything can have meaning. And I mean, isn't that part of the placebo effect? Um, and I I think that's wonderful too in a way. Like if you can like, create a meaning out of something for you to fit for you, that's cool. Um, but I like my soul is rooted in truth. And everything that's happening in our world is based on the cosmic astrology. We just don't know that. Us plebes, we're not allowed to know that unless we have studied like alchemical astrology in a very real way. I mean, if you think about it, one, I think about this stuff all the time in my work. The Bible was kept secret from, people who weren't in the church because they wanted to be able to cherry pick the knowledge that they give people. So, what's the difference between astrology? Why wouldn't they cherry pick what we're supposed to know in astrology? And God, sometimes I feel so like horrible saying that out loud, but it's true. And I've also seen a lot of people create meaning of everything. And again, I think that's wonderful in its own right, really. But oh my goodness, why wouldn't we follow the natural cycle? Like, why wouldn't we follow our natural connection to the cosmic consciousness? Like, this was all a part of our living before, and now we're on this like fake paradigm and fitting that as our reality. And I think we are, as a society and as like a planetary body, we're starting to see the deterioration that is doing to our spirit. I think that we're starting to see like that this system that's been created for us really doesn't work. Humans are adepts, wonderful, magical, alchemical adepts at fitting into whatever needs to be fit into. But after 2,000 years, I really think a lot of us are starting to wake up to the idea that this is not right and it doesn't actually work for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how my favorite part of what you just said was how you dropped the placebo effect. That was hilarious. My question with all of it, and like if you're an astrologer watching this, um, when I would love honest and respectful feedback if there's any astrologers watching this, because I was just so like once I started learning about this, I was so shocked that I find I kind of find it like to be a responsibility of an astrologer to know this. And I asked a lot of my friends who are astrologers, like, why are you using the tropical zodiac? And they were like, we didn't, this is what I learned in my training. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't even know about this other thing. And I just feel like as this information's coming out, if you're an astrologer, it's a responsibility to understand this. Cause like I was saying, if you're looking online or on any social platform, it's like everyone, 99.9% of the things you see, unless you're following Vedic astrology or Vedic astrologers, which most people aren't, like most of it is using the tropical zodiac, and it's frustrating. And I'm like, wait, is the moon in Sagittarius or is it in Gemini or where is it? I don't know, because I'm getting all this conflicting information. And it's frustrating to me. I feel very frustrated by that. But I think more and more people are awakening to this knowledge. And like you said, it's returning after all this time. And so now we can like really look at it and understand how to use it to our benefit. Because sometimes I think we take on, you were saying this sort of with your placebo effect drop. Like we take on identities, but are they, we can take on an identity with a lot of things, thinking that it's the best choice for us. And then, we learn with time, maybe it's not. But could we just start with the original blueprint of what is our true identity? And I think that it's just so cool that the sidereal chart is truly like the map of our destiny.
Mhm.
That feels really, really powerful. And like just something like, why would we not learn in school how to read our own chart? Like, this is like, duh. This seems like pretty vital to be learning. So add that to the list of like 75,000 other things we should be learning in school. But what I would like to ask you now, Iris, is just for people who are watching this that are like, so where do I start? Like, how do I look at, because people are definitely going to be asking that, like how do I look at both charts? Or what would you recommend for them to start to deepen into this if like for non-astrologers? Because astrologers, I think, will know how to figure that out.
Oh my goodness. My true honest answer is get a sky map because you learn a lot more through observation. And I know that's not like looking at your chart specifically. Like I use the app Sky Guide on my phone, and then I use Stellarium on my laptop. And I spend a lot of time really looking at where things are. They actually are because you'll begin to notice those like little shifts. And I guess I personally believe that the use of astrology is best done through daily connection and personal observation. And I know that going through the chart can be a lot right away. But if we can just connect into the planetary bodies, they will begin to bring us into different energy fields. Um, so I would start with the sky guide. And then when it's nighttime, go outside and look at where the moon is. Take your phone out. We all have phones. And look to see what constellation the moon is in. And I just taking those moments to connect will begin to make you realize why this work is so important. It was like, I'll never forget it. Mars and Aries. That's how like this really anchored for me. I went outside after a Reiki circle and I looked up and I saw Mars. You know Mars by being bright red. And I was like, oh, Mars. And of course, everyone tropical Mars and Taurus. And I took my phone and I looked up and I was like, Mars and Aries. It was like that palpable moment of where I was like, I can't. Like I see you, Mars. I'm talking to you right now. And I'm here. So I think that's the best starting point. And then the second starting point, oh my God, even trying to explain people how to access their sidereal chart is kind of frustrating because, like, what I use is astro.com. And when you go to sidereal on astro.com, it says only select this if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, can be kind of a daunting thing to say.
Yeah.
Sidereal. It's like, warning, warning, are you sure you want to do that? Which
Yeah.
I think is so interesting to our neural pathways in general. So you could potentially look up astro.com and do your sidereal chart, put everything in there. But then again, like I said, the systems are so unique. That's why I use Stellarium because it's best if I can go onto Stellarium. I can put in, a birth date and time and location and see what the actual stars look like with all the planetary bodies. And then I cross reference that with Astro just to be sure. Because something that I've noticed from observation is that like particularly when the moon is new and when the moon is full, it speeds up in orbit. So around the new moon or full moon, it could be varying degrees than what like Astro wants to tell you. It's and all of this has come from pure observation. I've just spent so much time like writing things down and studying the stars that I just like have seen how sometimes with these like planetary conjunctions things speed up, which again is not necessarily talked about, on astro.com, or unless you're like with a teacher or self-studying.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I love that perspective so much and I was like starting to giggle to myself when you were talking because I'm like, where is the moon on Google? And the moon is like, I'm out here, like, come look at me.
yeah,
And I
exactly.
think that that's such a great reminder for us and I mean, just for me too, but for everybody watching, like we're so used to getting all our information just on the computer or on our phone and spending time acclimating ourselves literally with the sky
Yeah,
without and allowing ourselves to receive information from that. I think that's really powerful and an important reminder.
yeah.
Um, and you guys also, if you're like, I don't know how to implement this, just I'm gonna put all Iris's information in the description and you can reach out to her and she does astrology readings and she has a lot of other awesome services. So you can reach out to her and like look through all her stuff and get more support from her with this specifically because she's really
Definitely.
good at this.
Yeah, thank
Um, the other thing too, and I can't remember, I don't think it was you who introduced me to this, but this also impacts our human design,
Oh
which is
yeah.
which is really interesting. And like I have one person told me this, and then I think I talked to you about it, and like nobody's talking about this part that our human design is influenced from Western astrology.
Mhm.
So like for me, I'm a projector, and this is the perfect example of like, are we identifying with things that are helpful? And so if you're a
Mhm.
projector, the first thing that you learn about being a projector is like, you have no energy. You have no energy. You're going to get burnt out quick. You have to move really slow. Like naps every day are a must, which in some cases, yes, this is how I naturally operate. But when I looked up my human design using cosmic astrology, I'm a generator. And I was like, oh, that's a really different vibe. So
Yeah.
that now I've been sitting with like, okay, so if I'm a projector in more Western astrology, what parts of that are like, is that true to my soul, or like is that like can I get rid of that whole identity, or like what parts of this are helpful or not helpful? And then learning about the generator, I'm like, oh, now I have a whole new thing to dive into. And if this is really the human design of my soul, shouldn't I be working with that energy a lot more than the projector? And so that's a whole other area that we can dive into this. And I'm going to have to ask Iris what the website is because I forget.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the description too, where you just plug in your information and it will give you your human design from the sidereal perspective, just so
That
you can like
website is so trippy.
investigate it. Like this continues to go deeper and deeper. So do you have anything you want to talk about in relation to human design in this?
I don't know if I should speak for Vedic astrology, but I've known so many Vedic astrologers who are like, human design is the devil.
Really?
Yeah, they hate it.
Say more. Say more.
It's an amalgamation of like all these different systems like turned into one. So it can be like a lot. And I don't know. I get what they're saying. But I also have found like when I look at my cosmic astrology, or my cosmic sidereal, I'm flipped in normal human design. I'm a Manny Gen, and then in friggin' cosmic human design, I'm a projector, and I feel so much more like a projector in that way. Even though I have like all sorts of downloads and insights that are constantly streaming through me, but like maybe I have like low B vitamins or something. But I freaking walked up a hill yesterday and I was tired. I like got up that hill and I was like, where is my energy?
Yeah, just a side note, because I feel like maybe this is relevant for what you just said. Like sometimes I've been like I keep hearing that I need to come back down to earth more because I'm like off in the cosmos, like down like just what you said. I'm just like off in these other realms all the time. And I was telling someone the other day, I was like, yeah, um, I get these like times where I won't eat a lot and I feel like it's energetic because I'm like receiving a lot of information. And then other times where I'm eating a lot where I feel like I'm being asked to ground. And he
Yeah.
was like, no, that's just like your body is holding on, like thinking that you're starving. And I was like, and so my point in saying this is like sometimes we think everything is um cosmic, and it like could be that like actually like our whole society is pretty nutrient deficient. So
Mhm.
I don't know why I went on this thing, but
Well, I think
like
it's a good thing to notice because, like, we have to be able to learn how to balance, like, the pragmatic versus the cosmic, and I'm super cosmic, and I believe that, all things in the body start in spirit, but also I can recognize that sometimes I need a little more vitamins, or I need to put electrolytes in my water,
yeah.
or, I need to be in the element that's like out of balance for me. And I think that matters. I mean, I'm a mom, so, it's like I'm still breastfeeding. I don't know if my breast milk production is taking from, my body or any of those things. So, like walking up that hill, I walked up that hill and I was like, something's not right here.
Yeah.
I
And
should not be this winded right now. What is going on? Like, do I need to check my B vitamins?
I think so what I was gonna say with that, like sometimes it's important for us to look at what we're identifying as, because it's like, oh, well, I'm like for me, I'm a very sleepy person. I like spending a lot of time sleeping. So I'm like, naturally that means I'm a projector. But like maybe I'm just nutrient deficient, or like maybe I'm not depressed, but like maybe I'm just depressed, or maybe there's something else. And then we're identifying ourselves with all these labels, whether it's in astrology or elsewhere in the spiritual world. Like,
For sure.
and like, I think that that can be dangerous sometimes. Um, so anyways, going back to cosmic astrology, maybe that was just, let me know in the comments if that was helpful,
Well,
because that was very random.
something that I really want to study is medical astrology. And there's a wonderful tropical astrologer that I love with my whole heart named Cameron Allen. He's so like open-minded. I don't know why. I feel he does a lot of uh, medical astrology based on the tropical paradigm, and he's seen wonderful results with his clients and his students, and that stuff. I think you could probably YouTube him and find some of his stuff. But anyway, I've always wondered how would medical astrology come in through the sidereal lens, and it's just not something I have enough practice with to really dive deep into. But I would love to really explore that as like a side quest on my astrology mission. I mean, but astrology is a lifelong pursuit. You don't just like study under a teacher for 6 months and that's it. Like you are a forever student, just as anything in the magical arts. You're a forever student. I mean, just yesterday we were driving down the road and I had to download about the solar cross that we're on. So I'm still like downloading and receiving information and integrating it. So um, I would just love to learn how to apply medical astrology in, the sidereal lens, because it seems like that would be really interesting for people's bodies now,
Yeah.
because your elements actually matter in the chart. And I find that once you lean into your elements of your chart, you actually begin to realize, where your superpowers are. So, oh,
Is there
okay.
anything else that you want to add that you think is important for people to know about this?
Oh man. You know, if you're really overwhelmed when it comes to tropical versus sidereal, I really want to encourage people just to look at their chart without any connection to the astrological signs. Because I have found even not talking about signs in a reading can be just as wonderful of an exploration. Because, of course, a Sagittarius sun, which you are obviously, Allie, is going to be different in the seventh house versus the 12th house or the 5th house. I think you're a 7th house sun. So I memorize people's charts. I don't know how I do it, but I just see it, snapshots, and it stays.
Always like, how do you remember this? She
Yeah,
does it
I
all the time.
remember you're a new moon. Like,
Yeah.
I remember it all. I don't know how it just stays. Um, I swear I didn't check your chart either before. I was actually like recalling it in the shower, of course. Out of all places, you got to be in the water, right? Um, so just looking at where your sun is in the house that it's in, or your planets, what house the planets are in, will begin to give you more of an insight and understanding as to how you operate if you're really like freaking out about how the astrological signs shift. And I think just even learning about like where your planets kind of shine their light, pun intended, and how what areas of your life you can really connect to will do you wonders. So if one is overwhelmed, I would totally suggest they start there just to really like understand. Okay, my son is in the 12th house. You know, I shine in spiritual pursuits, and this is a very basic example, but really then learning about how they can utilize their sun in that space, and then connecting the astrological signs after kind of gives them that like fortified layer.
That's
I
really
hope
cool.
that,
I'm like, okay, I shine in relationships.
well, I mean, you do. Look at you. You're like over here talking to people, connecting people together. You do a lot of one-on-one work. Like I feel like you really shine in one-on-one sessions,
Mhm.
which is total seventh house stuff. It's not just, you know, your relationship, like your romantic relationship or a business relationship, but literal one-on-one care. So I don't know. I feel like you totally shine there. That makes total sense for me.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Yeah. So that I love that. I love that idea. That's really interesting. And then you could do that. I mean, would you recommend people like start with the sun? But I'm like, okay, I can do more though. So like, could you look at your moon and then where other planets are in that same light, just in the house?
Yeah. And if I were to go on to a next step, I would look at the ascendant and who rules the ascendant and where that house sits or where that planet sits in what house. So, you know, I'm a Gemini ascendant and my Mercury is in the 12th house. So again, sun, Mercury, they're connected. Um, Looking at where your chart ruler sits is going to then be a really good place for you to begin learning about who you are in an embodied way. Um, so I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna do this right after we right after we're done. I'm excited.
Again, I think that you have a sixth house Mercury, if I remember correctly, which makes total sense to me because you're like of service. So
I actually don't remember, but
I'll have to check in with you afterwards and be like, was I right?
yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for all your knowledge and wisdom on this. And she has so much more of it, you guys, like in so many different areas. So, why don't you just tell everyone like how they can get in touch with you and about some of the services you offer if they want to go deeper in anything with you?
Um, so my Instagram handle is multidimensional period mother. Um, my website is tworoseshealing.org. I am currently building out the Dragon Rose Temple, so that's like my next phase that's coming soon. I'm just saying that because Two Roses Healing is eventually going to be phased out, hopefully by November. Cross our fingers. Of course, I do our typical natal astrology readings, but I also have a package where I combine Reiki and astrology, and we do a reading, and then I drop you into this liminal space to really connect with your chart ruler, so that you can begin like receiving their activation, if you will, of who you truly are. And of course, every chart is different. I meditate on them all. So, like the last one I did, the centaurs came through and they're like, she needs a centaur attunement. So that was
That's
fun.
so
But
cool.
yeah, it's so great when the centaurs come through. Um, and then my final favorite offering is for all the moms out there, um, a parent-child synastry reading. I just love helping mothers learn how to deeply connect with their children and their children's charts. And I don't do it based on the personality of their children. I actually do it based on the relationship of the mother to the child and really focus on how, to work with the natural archetypes and energy of the children so that you can foster a very deep, loving, and wonderful relationship with your child. So, those are my top three astrology offerings.
Awesome. Beautiful. So you guys can reach out to Iris if you want, if you have questions for her about any of those, but just like book one with her because she's great.
I
So
love it.
yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please put in the comments. I'm going to put those links to the places you can find some of these resources. Put in the comments. I'm just personally curious, like if your sun sign in Western astrology is the same as in sidereal or in cosmic astrology, or just like anything you find that you think is really interesting, please put it in the comments because that'll be fun for everybody to read.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love it. And if you're born, late in the tropical system, it's very likely you have the same sun sign. So that's usually a pretty safe bet. That's
what do
how
you
I'm
mean born
still a
late?
Sagittarius.
What do you mean born late? Like late in
Oh,
the timeline of the zodiac? Got it.
yeah. So, if you're born at the end of Sagittarius season, it's very likely that you still are a Sagittarius.
Yeah. I'm Sagittarius in every realm.
Yep. Pull that bow back.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here, Iris. This was so fun. I'm glad we finally got to talk about this. I know it's been brewing for a while. And please just let us know what you guys think about this topic respectfully. And as always, please just support the video itself so more people can find this. You can subscribe to my channel, like the video, and your comments on this. I'm just really interested to see what you guys have to say and what you find. Because for me, this was just such a deep place of self-discovery that I'm still like, I'm an amateur in this. That's why I was like, Iris, I've got to have you on to help me talk about this.
I love it. Thank you so much. It's such a fun way to like deprogram your mind.
Yeah.
Make you question everything you know to be true up until that point.
Yeah. It's like the next development in that. I feel like when we awaken, there's like a million of these moments, and this is another like big chunky one. So, all
Thank
right.
you.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.